Okay. Recording has started, so let's get started, John. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. Can you hear me? Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Glad to have everyone here. We're glad to be on this topic of credit. Is such an important part of everyone's life that we were just never educated really on in school. How did they just send us out into the world without telling us about one of the key and most important things that we should know financially in order to get ahead? It's kind of like they put us behind the eight ball on purpose. That's what it feels like. It feels like a setup, right? So today, what we're going to do is we're going to touch on some of the myths of credit, talk about the importance of credit, what it can do for you, and just try to get you a better understanding of this whole credit game. Feel free to take notes, get out a pen and paper if you would like. You can screenshot the screen if you want as well. And we're going to save the questions for the end. So, if you have questions at the end, we can do a Q&A and we can kind of touch on various topics, all right? And again, my name is Jonathan Gentry, better known as John Gentry. I am a credit specialist. I am also a realtor. Been in real estate off and on for about 10 years now. I'm actually a realtor with Sampson Properties currently, and the credit company that I work with is United Credit Education Services. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. All right, got that going on in the background. Let's see, get rid of some of that. All right, can you all see that? All right, wonderful. So
Yes.
what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, like I said, credit and the path to financial empowerment. All right, and like I said, we're going to touch on some of the myths of credit, some of the misunderstandings, so that everyone can kind of get a better feel of what credit is and what it is to them and how it impacts their life. All right, so let's talk about today's realities. All right, today's reality is that about 43 million people have a 599 credit score or lower. Nearly half of Americans don't know their own credit score, and the average debt is over 225,000, with many having less than $500 in their savings. Approximately 49% have no retirement, and only 18% know they're on track to reach their income goals for retirement. 65% of US citizens have no will, 82% have no trust, and 71% have no power of attorney, let alone even know what those are to begin with, right? Over 58 billion and there's over $58 billion in unclaimed life insurance policies, bank accounts, pension stocks, and other assets and property. And every 2 seconds, someone's identity is stolen. And all of these things have to do with our whole financial picture. And like I said, it all begins with your credit score. So as I just stated, over 43 million people have less than a 599 credit score. And for those who have gone to try to purchase a house or purchase a car, we all know that 599 is not going to necessarily get you what you came for, right? So we have to work on getting these credit scores up, and we also need to know how and basically what's the rules to the game. So if you don't know how it works, you can never really expect to have a good credit score. And I'll touch on that identity theft part briefly. I recently had my bank account wiped out right before a trip out of town. Completely wiped my bank account out, had me in the negative. I'm standing in line getting clothes to get on the plane, and she's like, "You're in the negative." Basically, this card is declined. Got me embarrassed, right? So these are all things that we need to pay attention to moving forward. Everything is moving in a digital direction, and we got to be abreast of what's going on. All right. So we were not taught financial literacy in school. It takes a lot of time to change your thinking and to become financially literate. Robert Kiyosaki said that. So today we're going to talk about credit and the 10 myths about your credit. And excuse me on my end, I'm fighting with the computer. There we go. Let me so I can see my screen. All right. So myth number one, credit agencies are empowered with some kind of governmental authority. This is not true. Credit agencies have no legal authority at all. They are simply private companies who are in the business of selling your credit information. So a lot of people have the myth in their mind or have been taught, misinformed that the credit bureaus have some type of authority that they're like backed by the government or something like that. This is completely false. The credit bureaus are simply privately owned companies, just like any other company. I always equate them to tennis shoe companies. They're like a Nike, a Reebok, and an Adidas, meaning they all sell the same product, which is your information, but they don't collaborate. They have nothing to do with each other. So a lot of times people might have, an issue with a creditor, a credit company, and they think that I raise my hand and I go to fight against it, that it's going to fight or dispute against all three credit bureaus. That's not the case. You have to dispute each item individually with each credit bureau. Like I said before, they don't deal with each other. They're all separately owned companies. They don't have anything to do with the government per se. They are all just privately owned companies that sell your information for profit. Myth number two, the credit agencies are required by law to keep derogatory items on your credit reports for a mandatory 7 to 10 years. This is also false. There are no laws that require credit agencies to report anything on you at all. Credit agencies are required, however, though, by law to automatically remove all derogatory items older than 7 years. On the case of bankruptcy, 10 years. So the only thing they're required to do is take this negative crap off of your credit reports if it's been on there for up to 7 years or 10 years in the case of a bankruptcy. But at any given time, this information can be disputed and deleted off of your credit reports. So a lot of people, they think that the stuff is on here forever or it's on here for a miraculous 7 or 10 years and it won't go anywhere. But at any given time, you can dispute anything that's on your credit reports. They have to do an investigation to see if the items are truly supposed to be on your credit reports or if they're on there erroneously and need to be removed. So you have all the right in the world to fight any negative item that shows up on your credit reports, and you shouldn't feel any kind of way about disputing it. Myth number three, it is impossible to get a bankruptcy removed. This is also false. Bankruptcies come off just like any other derogatory item that is incorrectly reported, obsolete, erroneous, misleading, incomplete, or that cannot be verified. Remember, the nature of the item has nothing to do with its removal under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. All right, now, what I will say to that, yes, a bankruptcy can be removed off of your credit reports, okay? But it's not like a flip of a switch. It's not a magical drop of a hat that gets this stuff removed. It's kind of an uphill battle, especially with bankruptcy, right? But they can be removed. They can be deleted off your credit reports. Now, what happens sometimes they're on there erroneously. So they're on there and they're not supposed to be on your credit reports. That's a different ballgame. That's a different kind of worms. Now, if it's not supposed to be there and it's there in error, it can come off pretty swiftly, okay? But again, you have to basically show that, hey, this should not be on my credit reports. This is on here in error, and get it removed, all right? And we do that through disputing the items, okay? And that's through a paper trail. I have to send letters stating to the credit bureaus, hey, this should not be on my credit reports. I don't know what this is. I've never seen it before. This may or may not be mine. Hey, credit bureau, do your job and investigate this item to see if it should be on my credit reports or not. 9 times out of 10, they never did their job, which is to investigate it before they put it on your credit reports. So we got to force their hand and make them do their job. Myth number four, information on your credit reports cannot be changed. The exact opposite is true. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, both the federal and various state laws require that items be removed if they are not 100% accurate or cannot be verified in a timely manner. So there's basically a loophole to that. So if they cannot verify it and they cannot, within 100%, have to 100% notice is you. Do they have a wet signature? Can they show when you walked into this place of business claiming that you did an inquiry for this car or this house or whatever the case may be? Can they actually prove that it was you? Kind of like in a court of law. Can they prove it? If not, you're innocent. Innocent until proven guilty, right? And then also it has to be 100%, and then it has to be in a timely manner. The credit bureaus have 30 days to do an investigation. Once you dispute an item, they have basically a month to figure it out. They got 30 days to see if this is you or this is not you. So for instance, let's say with the pandemic, Corona and COVID and everything going on, a lot of people just weren't in offices. They weren't at their desk. They weren't at their computer. Their computer might have been on, but they were in the bed asleep. So when the credit bureaus go to verify this stuff, they weren't getting responses back. So with that being said, if they don't get a response back, whether it's your item or not, whether you actually repoed this car, whether you foreclosed on this house, so on and so forth, if that particular creditor, that company does not respond within that 30-day time period, the credit bureaus could not verify this information. It has to come off of your credit reports. Okay. So that's where we actually are able to get stuff off of your credit reports in that manner. We have to dispute it and they have to verify it. Myth number 5, it is illegal or immoral to have information on your credit reports altered or removed. Not only is it not illegal or immoral, but it is exactly what the Fair Credit Reporting Act is all about. It was enacted by Congress for the very purpose of protecting consumers from the intrusion of the credit agencies into our lives. All right. So a lot of times people, like I just stated, you might have had a repo. You might owe an apartment complex that charged you that crazy security deposit that they should have given you back at the end. Some people may feel some kind of way. Well, my kid did leave a hole in the wall. I did miss that last payment on that repo. Okay, that's fine. But check this out. This credit score is going to hold you back from moving forward. You want to get a new car. You want to move from renting to owning, to getting a house from an apartment. All right. So to do that, we got to get these credit scores up. So if that is what is holding you back, is some information about something that happened years ago, long gone, that they've written off. They've gotten their money. They've gotten out of the deal. They've gotten paid basically, and you're still in a rep because they're still holding you to this old information about a past you. Well, currently you're doing better. You're in a better situation financially. You're moving forward in life, and this is holding you back. So we got to do what we got to do to get out of this situation. Okay. So not only is it not illegal or not immoral, it's actually absolutely what the Fair Credit Reporting Act was put in place to do, to help the consumer, the average consumer, beat these credit bureaus who are trying to keep them and hold them back from being great. Okay. And myth number 6. And like I said, you all can let me know that you're there. I want to make sure I got people still online with me. Give me some thumbs up, some number 5, some number 1, something. Say something, y'all. So I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. And then so here we go. Myth number 6. There we go. There we go, people. There we go. All right. Myth number 6. Paying a past due debt removes it from your credit report. Not exactly. Just because you pay an old debt does not change or erase the fact that at one time you were paying this debt as agreed. Can this record be changed? Absolutely. So a lot of times people think that paying a debt will remove it from your credit reports. That is not the case. It will show paid as agreed, but it still shows a record of you having an issue with a creditor at some point, which doesn't show you in the best light. So what we would like to do ideally is to get it completely deleted and removed from your credit reports. Now, in some instances, I will advise a client to make a payment. So I call them mosquito bites, right? Let's say you got a $20 copay. You got a little $50 copay or something like that, right? You could spend all this time going back and forth with, the fight, the dispute via letters back and forth to the credit bureaus, or you could just pay that $20, pay that $50. And once the debt has been handled, a lot of the times it comes off a lot easier. It's able to be deleted a lot easier because you don't have people actually trying to track you down and hound you about getting their money. They already got their money. They could care less. So when the credit bureaus come and say, hey, this person's disputing it, they're like, she's done. She already handled her bill, whatever. We don't care, right? A lot of the time, not all of the time. But if you do have one of those smaller bills, it shows in a better light if it's paid as agreed versus an active, open collection. Now, once again, as I just stated, paying it does not remove it from your credit report. So even if you were to pay it, if you want to completely delete it, you still have to dispute it. There's still a 30-day investigation process that occurs once you dispute it, and that is in your best interest to absolutely still dispute it, even if you pay on. Myth number 7. Inquiries are not derogatory and will not affect your credit standing. Anything that erodes your financial credibility is damaging to your credit standing In the case of inquiries 1 and 2 is not so bad, but any more than that, and they begin to tell a story about you. Any prospective credit grantor will look at your credit report and think that you are desperate for credit. So this is what I say to that. This is like the movie Friday with Felicia. Felicia walking up and down the block, knocking on everybody's door, trying to borrow their VCR, trying to borrow peanut butter, trying to borrow chicken, whatever they got to give, she trying to get it, right? So that's how you look. You look desperate. You look like Felicia, walking up and down the street, knocking on everybody's door, begging for money, ask for money, ask for credit. By the time you get to that 15th door, what are they saying? Bye, Felicia. Bye, Felicia. No, you can't get it. No, you can't have it. You knocked on 14, 15 doors, now you're at my door. Why am I going to give you that? Right? Why didn't they give it to you? Okay. So that's how inquiries look. And a lot of times people don't even understand inquiries. Even the people that work at the customer service desk or wherever you are, even in the stores, like my ladies a lot of times say, y'all go to Vicky's Secret or wherever y'all go, right? They offer you that 20% off at the counter if you apply for this credit card. Win, lose, or draw, you're gonna get your little 5% off or whatever the case may be. Right. Now, what you don't realize is that, okay, one, you already knew you was gonna get denied because your credit score was too low. Then once you get denied, by the time you walk out of that store, you just lost anywhere from 2 to 10 points on your credit reports. Because every time you do an inquiry, you lose 2 to 10 points. Okay? So I'll repeat that. Every time you do an inquiry, you lose 2 to 10 points. And an inquiry is simply sitting down with someone. They ask you for your social security number. So that's another thing I tell everyone. I advise you, if you ever give your social security number over, just assume that they're running your credit. Okay? A lot of times it's a teenager there or a college student or something who don't know nothing about credit, right? All they're trying to do is get their little commission or whatever the case may be. So you say, hey, is this going to be a hard inquiry? What's the answer going to be? Of course not. No, this is soft. Don't worry about it, right? And you wouldn't know the difference either unless you got some type of app hooked up to your phone that, pings you if somebody runs your credit. So just have in your mind, every time I give my social security number over to someone, they're most likely running my credit. All right. And I'm probably going to lose 2 to 10 points by the time I get up from this seat with this person. Win, lose, or draw. Okay. So, and the rule of thumb with, they said 1 and 2 is not so bad. The rule of thumb with inquiries is no more than 4 in a 6-month period. All right. So, no more than 4 inquiries in a 6-month period. And really, they don't want to see more than 4 inquiries overall on your complete credit reports. All right. So, if you can help it, keep it down to under 4 inquiries. And a lot of times, so like, let's say you have bad credit, low credit. I'm not gonna say bad credit. You have a low credit score, and you walk into a car dealership. All right. So they have like Monster Auto and all these different places that say, hey, we work with low credit. Okay. The reason or how they work with low credit is they have a list of banks that they send your information off to in hopes and prayer that one of these banks will approve your low credit and slap you with this 24% interest rate, right? So by the time you leave, now mind you, I just said you lose 2 to 10 points from each inquiry. By the time you leave out of there, they ran your credit 10, 15 times, 20 times sometimes. I've seen up to 30 credit reports, 30 inquiries ran on a person trying to get a car at one sitting. All right. Now, mind you, like I said, that person sitting behind the counter, he don't really know much about credit or even care that much. He's trying to get a commission. Only way he gets a commission is if you get approved for a car some kind of way. He don't care if your interest rate is 24% or 50%. You got approved. Here's your car. Peace. See you later. Thank you. I got my check. Right. So you got to be mindful and you got to be defensive about it. You need to ask questions when you're sitting in front of these people asking you for your social security numbers. Myth number 8. If you get a derogatory item removed, it will just come back. This is false again. If it is removed legally and with cause under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it then cannot legally be placed back on your credit report. The same law that requires its removal also prohibits it from being placed back on your credit. Okay. So a lot of times people think that when these items get deleted, it's just going to jump back on their credit reports. That's not the case legally. All right. So the problem with credit is that the gray area is about as big as a football field. Okay. So it's so much gray that people are able to work around the system. And so you should use that in your favor as well, because they sure enough are going to do the same thing. So Um, it cannot be put back on your credit reports. However, your debt can be sold to a second, third, fourth collection company, which will then come after you for the same debt. Okay. But once again, they have to prove that they can legally come after you for this debt. Joe Blow down the street can all of a sudden come up with a credit collection company and knock on Miss Wanda's door and say, "Hey, you owe me $5,000 for this car back in 1992," and you like, well, "What car in '92?" Right? Not only that, it's hard to remember. Like time, so much time has passed. You don't remember all these different things going on, and so they have to verify and actually show proof that they can one legally even come after you for this. Are they illegal, even a company? Are they LLC? Are they a S corp? Like, show me your credentials before I have to give you all my information, my social, my whole background, my middle name, all this type of stuff, right? Show me where you're coming from. So they have to legally prove that they can come after you for all this stuff. And they cannot just place it back on your credit at because they feel like it. But what they can do is sell it to the next company. Like they have a list of debt that they're collecting on, right? They buy this debt for pennies on the dollar. So let's say you owe $500, $5,000. They might have bought your file for $10, $5, right? So it's all profit. It's 200, 1,000% profit to them. You see what I'm saying? So that's why it's worthwhile to blow your phone up all day, all night, because if we catch a fish, we caught one, right? If we don't, no harm, no foul. It costs me $10, right? And if we don't catch you, we get tired of fishing for you. We just pass you on to the next fisherman. You see what I'm saying? And that's how that works. But they cannot legally just put it back on your credit reports once it is deleted. If it's deleted in a legal manner in a proper fashion. Okay. Myth number 9. The past equals the future. This is the biggest myth of all. The concept that once bad, always bad, or at least for 7 years is totally false. Anybody can run into hard times or an emergency situation now and then, but that doesn't automatically mean that they are at full credit risk for the magic 7 years. The simple truth is no credit report can predict the future. Once again, like I said, people think that they're stuck with these scores. They think that it takes years and years for their scores to change around, to go up or go down, or whatever the case may be. The truth of the matter is your score is forever changing. It changes daily, it changes monthly. It depends on your actions and what you do. Um, if you're gonna buy a car, that's gonna affect your credit report. If you pay a car off, that's gonna affect your credit report. You open up a new credit card account. You close a credit card account. That's going to affect your credit reports. Okay, and it will affect it within that reporting period of whatever that item is. Credit cards report on 30-day interval, right? So if you get that credit card on the 12th of January, by the 12th of February, it's going to report. If you use it in February, it's going to report by March of whenever you got the card, right? At the same time, every month. So if you got 3 or 4 different items, they're all reporting at different times of the month. Your score is going up or down based on these different items and how they report. So you got to keep that in mind. So people think that, in 6 months they're going to do an audit on me. No, they're auditing you daily. Every day you're getting audited on the back end with what you do and what's being reported. It just depends on what you have. And one of the tricks to credit is that in order to have good credit, they want you to have credit. And that poses a question. Well, okay, well, how do I get good credit? Well, how do I get credit, period, if my credit scores are poor? Okay. So that is where you would know someone like me who can point you in the right direction and help you to map it out, to figure out what you should do, what should be the next stepping stone to get you to whatever your goal is. Okay. So myth number 10. I cannot restore my credit on my own. Yes, you can. You can try to do it all by yourself. Just like you can represent yourself as an attorney in a court of law. I don't know if y'all saw that guy who just represented himself, that crazy killer who just got himself convicted, right? So you can represent yourself in the court of law if you choose to, right? That's on you. But you can also allow experienced professional specialists to work with you on your credit, educate you, and guide you through the credit restoration process. All right, so let's talk about how your credit score is calculated. Can everybody see this? All right, so your credit score is like let's think of it like a big old pie, a big old apple pie, right? And we gotta have all of the pieces in place to put this pie together. Excuse me, I'm seeing people. Okay, okay, I can see you all chatting. Okay, cool. And so, some pieces of this pie are more important than others. All right. So let's start with the two largest pieces of this pie that you see: payment history and your amount used, or your utilization is what it's called, your credit utilization. All right. Payment history, that is your timeliness of paying your bills. Okay. So you have credit cards. A lot of times people take it for granted. All right. Let's say I got this low credit card. This is a $200 secure card, whatever the case may be. $200, let's say Target card, right? The bill on it might only be $10 a month or whatever the case may be. You're having a tight month. You know, you're paying your car note, you're paying the this and the that. The kids got, soccer, swimming, football. This little $10 bill is gonna get pushed to the back burner. But guess what? This same $10 you probably spent on junk food at the gas station or whatever the case may be, right? But because you skipped over it because it's only $10, I'm not gonna pay it this month. I'll pay it next month. I'll pay it 2, 3 times, 3 months down the road, right? Well, you just racked up 3 late payments, okay? 3 late payments of $10, right? Keeping in mind, you want to buy a house within the next 6 months, 6 months to a year. You want to get you this new Maybach. Let's say Maybach. Everybody want to drive it. You want to get this Maybach, right? In the next 6 months. Well, you just sat your Maybach down on bricks because you didn't pay $30, $10 to Target because you just didn't feel like it. You took it for granted. You didn't understand the importance of being on time. So as you can see, that's 35% of your credit score. So if you're late, you just lost 35% of your score. So if you have 35% of your score missing or neglected, you cannot hope to have a great credit score to get the best interest rate on this house or this new Maybach, this Lamborghini you about to purchase in the next 4 months, right? They're gonna hit you with the 50% interest rate. You look like a 50% interest rate kind of person, right? So don't set yourself back like that, especially with these smaller bills that we tend to take for granted. You absolutely have to, I'm trying to meet people. You absolutely have to pay those bills on time. Because if you're late, they're going to hold that against you. And this is the way of thinking, if you will, of the credit bureaus or creditors, should I say, who look at this information provided from the credit bureaus. If you're late, why is she late? Okay. Maybe she just lost her job. Maybe she's going through something financially, physically, mentally, right? Is this a safe time to lend her money right now? Most likely not. Okay. Let's wait until she gets back on track with her bills. That's how it's viewed. Okay. So if you're late, this is not you, Andrea. This is not you, Safrania. I don't know how to say your name. How you say your name? Nia. I'm gonna call you Nia. This is not you, Nia. Right?
Saffronia.
Oh, Safrania. Okay. All right, I like that. So if
Thank
you're
you.
not paying on time, then we're not going to lend you money. It just doesn't make good sense. And like I tell everybody about credit, they get all stiff about it and all professional. It's like the street. You know what I'm saying? If you know your homegirl down the street, she owe everybody money. She don't pay people on time. Are you going to lend her money? You going to pay her way in the club? No. Because you might not ever see that back. Okay. The same thing is with credit. It's just a conversation being had about you. They can't sit kneecap to kneecap with every person on earth. But what they can do is gauge your actions and your activity and show this to the next person as a forewarning if they should lend you money or not. 30% is your utilization. So this 30% works two ways. So it's 30% of your credit score, but the rule of thumb is that you should never use more than 30% of whatever credit card or whatever limit you're given. So if you have a credit card and there's basically $1,000, the easiest way to chop that up is divide it into three. We're never going over a third. That's the quickest way to do that math if you're not a mathematician, right? But 30% is the rule of thumb. So if I got $100 card, I don't want to spend more than $30 on the card, basically. If I got $1,000 card, I don't want to spend more than $300 on the card. If I got a $10,000 card, I'm not spending more than $3,000 on the card, basically. You know what I'm saying? So you got to keep it under 30%. That's the easiest way, quick way to do that math. So if you look at your bill and you see that your limit is teetering on 30% of whatever the limit is, I mean, your balance is teetering on 30% of whatever the limit is, you need to pay it down as soon as possible. That does not bend, it does not break, does not break. I didn't say 31, I didn't say 32, I didn't say 40. As soon as you go over 30, your credit scores start to go down. Boom. Once again, how it's perceived is maybe she's using this credit card to pay her bills. Maybe she's living off of this card. Uh-oh, she's running a balance up. I don't know what the interest rate is on that card. It's because it's through some other company. I can't see that information. So we don't know how they're going to hit her with that. Should I lend her money right now? Most likely not. Let's wait till she gets her bills under control. Then we'll think about lending you money again. This credit score is simply a gauge of how safe it is to lend you money. So when you think of that credit score, it shows the safety that they view you with lending money to you. Okay, 700 plus, she's good. We ain't got to worry about her, right? 600, we might take a chance on them. So to mitigate our losses, let's give them a higher interest rate. Okay, 500 and something like that. Nah, we not messing with that person. We gotta wait until they get a little more credit worthy, right? They get a better job. They get their bills under control a little bit more. Okay. Um, so moving on, 15% is your length of credit. All right, that's how long you have had credit. You know, it's like a rookie versus a vet. You know, a kid fresh out of college who has this card who just think it's free money and they gonna go out and blow it versus someone who's seasoned, had cards 10, 20, 15, 20, 30 years, right? They're more likely to give that person newer credit because they know that they have a better understanding of this process and how it works. They feel more comfortable. Once again, it's about the comfortability and the safety of lending this person money. If you've been through it and you know how it works, you've been dealing with credit for 20 years, okay, I feel safer giving you $2,000, $20,000, $200,000, right? I feel more comfortable lending that person money than somebody who just jumped into this credit pool and they just trying to figure out how to swim. All right. And the last 20% of your credit score is, of course, new credit and mixed uses of credit. So new credit, you know, you go out get a new card, you get that new Vicky's Secret card, get a new Target card, Macy's card, whatever the case may be. If you actually get the card, if you're credit worthy enough to get the card, right? These are all good looks for you, and you're handling them all responsibly. You're keeping everything under 30%. Okay. And then there's the types of credit. So there's two types of credit. There's revolving credit and there's installment credit. Okay. So installment credit is mortgages, car notes, school loans, student loans. All right. Excuse me. That's because you pay those down in installments until they're paid off. Revolving credit is your credit cards. It's revolving because you're taking out, you're putting in, taking out, putting back in, taking out, putting back in. It's revolving. Okay. So revolving credit versus installment credit. And what you want to do is show that you can juggle both kinds of credit responsibly, so that you can hold it down without being late. Because once again, your payment history is 35% of your score. You want to keep your utilization to under 30%. You want to keep these items for as long as you can keep them. You want to show a lengthy history of credit. Um, Backing up a little bit, okay, so a lot of times people think that, you know, let's say you do get that Maybach or whatever, you got your new Ferrari, right? Like big nice cars, right? You got your Ferrari. You paid your Ferrari off, right? You think you did a great thing, right? Well, guess what? When you pay that car off, what happens to that account? It closes, okay? When that account closes, you lose all that history that you had with that car. So you've been paying on this car for 5 to 7 years or however long you had this car. You've been on time. You've been a great patron of this product, right? And then at the end of it, the account closes and your scores are going to take a dip because the account just closed. You lost that 5 to 7. It's not calculated into the score any longer, right? So you did do a great thing because you got out of a little bit of debt. But initially, when that account closes, your scores are going to take a dip. They'll come back, and or if you replace it. So typically, you know, when people get out, let's say you get out of a car, you're typically getting into another car. A lot of times when the car is almost paid off. It's gonna fall apart anyway, right? So you got to go buy another one, and or you would just trade in that car in for another car. So when that new account shows up and replaces that old account, and the payments start being reported, your scores will come back. Okay, but that's why we never close accounts if we can help it. So if you have an old credit card that you're not using, cut the card up, hide it from yourself, whatever the case may be. You got an account that you don't really touch often. Okay, you might want to spend $5, $10 on it here and there just to keep it active, right? But we don't ever want to close the account if we can help it because we're taking advantage of the history of that particular item. Okay, if it's 5 years, it's 10 years. Eventually, it'll become what we call a seasoned trade line. Seasoned trade line is everything on your credit reports is a trade line, but we want older trade lines, 10, 15, 20, 30-year old trade lines. Everything on your credit reports is a trade line. So if you close it, then you just kind of just set yourself back a little bit where, a year from now it'll be a year older, 2 years from now it'll be 2 years older, so on and so forth. For each year that goes by that you're on time handling this item responsibly, that shows well on your behalf. I always say it's like a cheerleader. It sits on your credit reports as a big cheerleader and say, hey, this person is great. She can handle it. Feel free to lend her whatever she asks for. Okay? So we're never closing any accounts. And that's pretty much how your credit score is calculated. Feel free to screenshot that and just take note of that because this is the rule to the game. If you don't know this part, how can you ever expect to win? You might win on accident, but if you know, then you have a better chance of actually winning the game. Like I said, the biggest key that people take for granted is the 35% of your credit score, which is your payment history. Never, ever, ever, ever be late. I can't stress that enough. That's more important than getting a collection removed. That's more important than getting an old bankruptcy removed. They only hold let's say you want to buy a house. They only hold bankruptcies against you for 2 years. So at the end of that 2 years, you can still turn around and buy a house, even with the bankruptcy sitting there bright as day showing on your credit reports, because that was the old you. That was 2 years ago. Okay, what's going on then? You got a better job, you got a better credit score. You're pretty much you're pretty well off as opposed to where you were 2 years ago when you had that bankruptcy. Who knows? Maybe it was just the climate at that time, the foreclosures, XYZ, right? But if you're late, you just had a new late on that Target card, you forgot to pay that $10 bill, we're not giving you that house. You sure? Okay, so don't forget that, y'all. Let me try to move on to this. All right. And this is the Fair Credit Reporting Act of 1971. So I can see. It gives Americans the right to dispute and or investigate any item on their credit reports. Inaccurate, erroneous, obsolete items such as late payments, charge-offs, foreclosures, judgments, repossessions, bankruptcies, tax liens, collections, short sales, medical bills, and many other negative items can be deleted, completely deleted from your credit profiles, updated to reflect a more positive payment history, or shown as paid as agreed. And so that's what the Fair Credit Reporting Act was put in place for. And I kept touching on it, and it's in the books for us to take advantage of. So like I said, feel free to use your rights and don't be afraid to dispute stuff that's on your credit reports, because a lot of people do and they're afraid of it. And then so with hold on, see if I can back it up. And with that being said, let's see where we at. So I also offer credit repair services through my company, which is United Credit Education Services. I'm trying to get my computer act right. Sorry, y'all. And so basically with our company, you get a portal. It will actually show you, the whole progress of everything, the process. Your documents come to you as a PDF. You're able to update and upload, all the items as they come and go back and forth from the credit bureau, so on and so forth. And just like in the name of the company, United Credit Education Services, education is the biggest key to this all. And, it's about knowing what to do and what not to do and how to actually fight on your own behalf and have somebody in your corner helping you fight. All right. Because, we deal with all kinds of walks of life. We've seen it all. You'll be surprised how many people come to me embarrassed. They just say, I don't want to show you, John. It's like, I got this stuff on here. Oh, it's crazy. I know you never seen one as bad as mine. Trust me, I've seen worse. I've seen the worst of the worst. And something that's not, sometimes it's just a misunderstanding. A poor credit score doesn't necessarily mean that you have bad credit. You may just be missing some of the pieces to the puzzle that we talked about. And I just have to show you how we need to build your credit up. Everybody don't need to dispute negative items off of their credit. Some people just don't have enough credit. They don't have a length of credit history where we just need to update it. We need to, build their credit up as opposed to take all this negative stuff off. Sometimes it's better to be, all the time it's better to be in that position. Let's say I get a younger person, 20 something years old, 30 years old, whatever the case may be. They just don't have established credit, but they haven't messed it up either, right? Somebody maybe 40, 50, whatever, they done been through the ringers, right? They got all kinds of stuff on there that we got to first try to clean up and then come back and build up to help them to get to where they're going. But once again, the biggest key is to keep in mind your goal. What is it you're trying to do with it? Credit only matter about, what you're trying to do. What is the goal? If you don't have a goal in mind, other than that, it's just an ego trip. I just want to have a big credit score, right? What are you trying to do with that credit score? Are you trying to get a business loan? Are you trying to purchase a home? Are you trying to get a new car? Are you trying to help a family member out, partner up with someone to, whatever the goal may be, some type of business transaction, right? And then you gear that process towards whatever the goal is. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and I'll open the floor up for questions. I see people were putting questions in the chat. What we got? Is it true that you should not be worried about negative credit on your report that is older than 20? That is false. That is super false. If it's on your credit reports, it can be seen. Even closed accounts. So once again, closed and deleted is two different things. Okay. Your closed accounts still affect you. They don't affect you as much as open accounts, but they still hold your score back in some instances. So if you got some closed, it's okay for an account to be closed and be in good standing. But sometimes you have closed charge-offs, or you have a closed account that shows late payments, that shows that you still owe them money. These still hurt you. They might be 2, 3, 4 years old, but if it's showing, it's still going to hurt. So yeah, that's false. Older than 24 months is false. Now, as far as in the case of a bankruptcy, so people, they get their terminology and vocabulary mixed up a lot of the times. Now, a bankruptcy, it only affects you for 2 years. When it comes to the lenders don't hold a bankruptcy against you after 2 years. They lenders also mortgage lenders also don't hold medical bills against you if you're trying to purchase a home. But that medical bill can still affect your score. So if the medical bill, let's say you need to be a 620 to get this home approval, but you got this medical bill that has you at a 610. Well, the medical bill is still hurting your score. Now, let's say you had to be a 620. That's fine. You had a medical bill. You needed to be a 620 and you're a 650 with the medical bill on your credit reports. They're not going to hold that medical bill against you, if that makes sense. All right, I got another question. If you have a debt in collection that is delinquent, I'm trying to put it together. She was typing probably on.
Yeah, that is delinquent and old. Should you work to get it off? She was told to get it taken off, it would actually lower your score because it decreases your age on the credit report.
Yeah, so we basically touched on that. So yeah, that's a catch-22. You would rather not have late. What I tell you, the worst thing you can do is be late, right? So these late payments are hurting you. We can kind of fix the age part, but we can't fix the late part. So ideally, you want to dispute it and say, hey, I was never late. First of all, right? That's where you start. Hey, creditor, I was never late. Prove that I was late. If they can't prove that you were late, boom, it gets updated to show that you were on time the whole time. That's great. Now you get to keep that account and keep the age of it. Now let's say you dispute it, they come back, they say, nah, sweetheart, you was late half the time you was with us, right? Okay, well now you're stuck with these lates. So the next best thing is to try to get it deleted, right? So now you just gotta, you keep on fighting until somebody don't pick up the phone for a month, and now it gets deleted. Okay, cool. But once it gets deleted, you might have just lost the 2 to 5, 7, however many years that was attached to that account. But we can then turn around and add what's called an AU authorized user account, which is a different kind of a trade line that might be 10, 15, 20, 30 years old, which will make up the difference for that account being taken off. Okay. But we cannot just make up the difference with late payments. So, yeah, if you had to pick and you got a bunch of lates on there, get those lates off best as possible. We worry about the age after that. Okay. That makes sense? Okay.
It does, thanks.
Okay. Let me see. What
The
else?
next question, if you have a score in the 700s, but not enough credit, how can you get more credit without a lot of inquiries?
That's a tricky one. Did somebody actually have, is that speaking from like real life or is that just a hypothetical question?
That's real life.
Okay. What you would do is you can add trade lines. You got to add trade lines. So for instance, when you want to get a business loan, they will typically lend you 8 times what you already have on your credit reports, right? So you need to show that you have some type of credit. If I want 100,000, excuse me, I need to be showing at least 20,000 that I already have. Like I said before, they want to work with people that already kind of got this thing under control. They're just trying to get to the next level. So with that being said, I will point you in the direction of trade lines that are in your name. Now, like I said, once again, when it comes to credit, there's a lot of gray. Okay, it's really boils down to how much money you have to invest in this process. So if you stay in the game 100,000, 200,000 on a business loan, so on and so forth, to get a contract, and you need to have your credit scores to be at a certain amount, whatever the case may be, this should be looked at more as an investment for you, okay? Because it's going to cost you some money. A lot of times people are stuck with whatever score they have because they don't have the money to fix it. If you got the money to fix it, then we can add trade lines, we can add different kinds of credit to your credit reports to show that you have enough credit, right? And to also pay off some of the debt if need be. Like I said, some stuff we pay off if we have to, just to make the process go faster. We can sit here and fight back and forth all day about a $20 copay, or you could just pay it. You know what I'm saying? You could just pay it. And then if we still need to dispute it off, we have a better chance of getting it deleted once it's been paid. Okay, but it's still so much great. So to answer your question, we would add trade lines, preferably in your name. So the AU is called an authorized user. All right, and I always get a little funny about educating people about authorized user trade lines because they try to take that and run with it, right? Well, the catch to that is if you get the wrong authorized user, you can shoot yourself in the foot. Okay, if you don't quite understand what's going on. So just because your boyfriend got a credit card and he can add you on as an authorized user, don't mean that you should get him to add you on as an authorized user. Because once again, he might have that card maxed out, but he may have 10, 15 cards. He put you on the one he ain't tripping off of, right? And that happens to be the maxed out one. So the one that he put you on, as soon as you go on it, your scores drop instead of going up. So instead of getting 100 points, you lose 20 points, lose 30 points, and you don't quite understand why. So as an authorized user, people can put you onto their cards. They can do this for free. It doesn't cost you a dime. If you have an uncle, a aunt, a grandma, a daddy, a mom, whoever who can add you to their credit card, they might have a 20, 30-year-old credit card that they paid perfectly on time for the last 20, 30 years. And they can add you to it. That's going to help your credit scores, okay? But if you get put on to Unc's little play card that he uses to go to Vegas and it may go up, may go down, he paid when he feel like it, then you're going to get hit every time that he decides to use this card, okay? And then you're kind of stuck until he takes you off of the card. And God forbid something happens to Unc or whoever, they pass away or whatever, now you stuck with a charge off. So you got to be careful about it. Like I said, it's about your goal. Don't just get on it just to say I got good credit. Get on it to achieve your goal. If your goal is to get a new house, get a new car, get a business loan, get in, get out. Stay on that car for 2 to 3 months, 2 to 6 months, however long it takes. And then once you reach your goal, get off of the car. Your score may take a dip when you come off of the car, but guess what? Now you don't have to worry about, God forbid something happen to he catch COVID or something. Knock on wood, that don't happen to right? But anything can happen. Life happens, and you don't want to get caught holding the bag and be stuck looking crazy with your credit. So there's that way. You can get on someone's for free, or you can know someone like me who can actually sell you a trade line that we have vetted and we know that it's good to go. It's going to do what we can do, right? But they can be expensive, and we can talk about that offline. You got any more questions?
Two more. One is, once you dispute something negative, does it restart the 7-year clock?
No.
And then the second one is they heard the credit agencies and scoring process is about to change. Is that true?
Okay, well, I start with the first one. So disputing your credit does not restart the clock. What you have to do is be careful to not acknowledge the debt. That restarts the clock. Okay. So when these people are calling you, blowing your phone up, hey, you owe us this money, you owe us that money, this, that, and third. Sometimes we get pissed, right? We get mad, and what we do? Put our foot in our mouth. I owed you that back in '95. Y'all still call? I owed you. And the first thing they say when they call you is this call may be recorded for customer service, whatever the case, right? So they just wait for you to say something stupid, basically. So as soon as you get mad and you put your little foot in your mouth, well, you just restarted that clock. Okay, so disputing it, saying, hey, I don't know if this is mine or not. Show me proof, right? Hey, I've never seen or heard of your company. What is this? This is not mine. Please take this off of my credit reports. That won't restart the clock. Hey, I owed y'all this. This is 2-3 years ago. I'm not giving y'all nothing. I don't care how long y'all called me. You just acknowledge the debt. That restarts the clock. So every time you acknowledge the debt, you have to be careful and mindful of the words that you say over these phones. As soon as you acknowledge the debt, you're restarting the clock on whatever that item is. And as far as changes to the way stuff is reported, who knows? That remains to be seen. We all waiting to see, with one another. But all we can do is go off of what we do know currently, play by the rules that are in place. When they change the rules, then we'll change our strategy. Any other questions? All right, well, give me some thumbs up, some flames or something. Give me something in the chat. Let me know y'all live out there. Yeah. I see Wanda. She was with me the whole time. There we go. Well, I appreciate y'all for having me. Hopefully it was informative and you got some good nuggets that you could take away, some good notes, and prayerfully help you reach your goals in a more timely, effective manner. And I appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you, John. Are there any other questions of me or our program here? Okay, so no questions. I'm just going to reiterate to please fill out our survey. That has been placed in the chat. It will also be emailed to you. Also, I wanted to give you a heads up of some other workshops that are coming up. John just explained the effects and how to improve your credit, your personal credit score. Next week, we have the power of business credit. We have an author of a book, and she's going to go through the 10 steps of creating business credit. And that is next Tuesday, the 29th. Also on Thursday, this one was very informative, but we do have a networking event coming up on Thursday. We do these periodically, as I stated earlier, just to provide a platform so we can support one another, support Black businesses. That is on Thursday, the 24th. and it will be hosted by Joy Cook. She is on the line. She may say a few words. I'll give her a minute if she wants to come on. And I also wanted to introduce Andrea Smetley. She's been on moderating and helping out. She's one of our program managers. If you're interested in getting more information, you can email us. I believe you all have the email, but we're going to put it in the chat, info@mpservicesdc.com. And if no one has any other questions, we will be sending out the information for the networking event. As I stated, it's hosted by Joy Cook. That will be coming out in the email, or you can go to the website and register for that as well. And please, please join us for our other workshops coming up.
I'm gonna go ahead and put my email in the chat, and put my real estate website in the chat for you all as well, okay?
Right. And then when we send out the recording and the survey again, we'll send out John's contact information. He's full of knowledge, and he does, like I said, an expert in the field, and he can help you out. If you do have credit issues, or if you do have some questions that you want to address offline, you can email him directly. So we don't have any other questions. John, you want to put your info in the chat?
Listen, everybody don't call me at once now. You don't get me, shoot me a text message. Preferably shoot me a text message before you call, and then I can respond to everybody in as timely a manner as possible.
And we'll also send that information as well. Okay, so that will end our workshop tonight. Please join us on Thursday or next week on Tuesday. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.